This is Talk is Sheep, the official podcast of the Wild Sheep Society BC, brought to you by Sitka Game. Come along as we bring conversations that matter to you into the high alpine. Well, my friend, here we are. We are going to chat with Dr. Sam Cunningham, but most importantly, have you killed anything yet this year?
No, no, I have not. We're working on it.
Cool.
Slowly but surely. I'm failing as a
So
hunter.
your daughter has a elk draw, right? Is she still hunting, or is she done?
No, she's got it runs right through to February.
Okay.
But it's private land, local to Prince George, so we're just working on that. And no, I didn't get that tag knowing I had private land. I was supposed to be buying private land and then switched houses. So I'm not one of those guys.
Greg, we're really disappointed that you get this elusive tag, which is not elusive, but you get this tag and then you don't have anywhere to hunt. Come on, buddy. It's like you you have to invest that $1 million so you could buy that property, right?
Yeah, I've got some angry angry people at me. So
what your daughter, namely?
No. We some locals around Prince George have been entering for that tag for a long time and not getting it. It's
right.
It's like,
fair.
She's 11. She deserves it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, the vagaries of our LEH system in British Columbia, right? So, people whine to me, and that's exactly why, right? I've been applying for 55 years, and she gets it on her first year. So, anyway, good on her. It's a lottery, man. Buy a lottery ticket 100 times or buy it one time. You still have it doesn't mean you're going to win because you buy them 100 times. So, yeah, fair. Cool.
Yeah,
all right.
exactly.
And then how about Connor? What's going on with him? Is he hunting mule deer this year, or what's the plan there?
He's hunting mule deer, moose. He's currently out as we speak with Grandpa chasing immatures, mule deer, whitetail, and grouse.
What are we doing wrong, buddy? Your kid's out chasing animals, and here we are doing anyway, whatever.
Yep. Yeah, well, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, well, good on him. That's awesome. Love it. Okay, so on this episode, we're talking to Dr. Sam Cunningham. Dr. Cunningham is the president of the Texas Bighorn Society, and a lot of issues in Texas around disease. They've got Mycoplasma ovi pneumonia problem, MOVI, as we all know about. Same stuff we're dealing with here in BC and all across all jurisdictions as a general rule, and in Western North America, certainly for bighorn sheep, not as much of an issue for thin horns. And Sam really dives into it. And at the heart of MOVI in Texas is Aoudad. So everyone loves to go and kill Aoudad. It's a great hunt. And the problem is there's too many of them. There's disease issues in Texas. Sam does the deep dive on this. We talk about what's going on with TBS. We're talking about what's going on with him. Sam is great guy. Really enjoy him. We've done some work with him. We've done some swaps on donations and stuff. In fact, Wild Sheep Society BC, our Wild Sheep raffles is going to drop here next month. We got a cool lineup, and part of that lineup is an Aoudad hunt and a heli hog hunt and that's all done through TBS and working with Sam. And so really cool. We're really stoked about that. But anyway, this is a great podcast with Sam, and you're going to enjoy chat with him, but learn all about what's going on in Texas. So what's going on the sheep front, on the WSSBC front, Greg? What are we missing?
Oh, we still have a couple of raffles on the go right now. So don't forget your raffle tickets for the Danny Strong Platinum Hunter. There's $32,000 worth of prizes. We have the Sacco rifle on right now as well. And then we're rolling into the Women Shaping Conservation event at the end of November. So don't miss out on that.
Yeah. So lots of really cool things going on. That Platinum Sheep Hunter package, it's like you said, 32,000. It's got a Gunworks Nexus rifle in there. So super cool. And then the Women Shaping Conservation event. Go to our website, check it out. It's on the homepage. Click on it. We're doing a podcast there live, so you can come and check it out. You can chat with Greg and I. Love to see you there. And hey, if you're down south, I know we got a lot of American listeners. Jump in an airplane, come up to BC, come and meet our board of directors. I will buy you a whiskey. I promise I will. So if you fly in from out of province, I'll buy you whiskey. That's my promise. Within limits. It's topped at 10, actually. I better be careful here.
Yeah. Yeah, watch out. Someone's filling up a plane and showing up, and you got 200 whiskeys to buy.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Awesome. Right on. Well, off to the what episode are we? 154, 155?
This would be 155.
With Dr. Samuel Cunningham, Texas Bighorn Society. Enjoy. This episode is sponsored by our conservation partner, Yeti. Thank you, Sitka Gear and Yeti, for investing in healthy wildlife and sustainable ecosystems. Well, good evening, Dr. Samuel Cunningham. It's an absolute pleasure to finally have you on the board here, or on board here on Talk is Sheep. You know, we've been trying to put this together for a long time. We've talked about it now for, I think, a year and a half at least, and this is long overdue. So welcome to Talk is Sheep.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. So what's going on in your life these days? What are you busy doing? Busy with sheep, busy with work, busy hunting? What are you doing?
A little bit of all the above. Tracy and I just got back from Africa a couple of weeks ago. That kind of turned out good and bad. Good, she had a great time. Bad, now she wants to go back. So no, that went great. Did an pronghorn antelope hunt in New Mexico last weekend. Don't have anything else scheduled for a while. Just been working.
Nice. So your trip to Africa, was that a safari? You going to harvest a bunch of animals, or were you guys touring around? What were you doing over there?
Because she went, we did a little bit of both.
Okay.
There were 3 little species that I wanted to do to complete the tiny 10 of those antelope, and so we finished that off and then did some touring around and saw some country. It was nice.
Nice. And then you said you were chasing antelope, and was it New Mexico? You said last.
Yes, sir.
Last
Where we are here in Amarillo, we're about 90 minutes from the New Mexico border. West, about 90 minutes from the Oklahoma Panhandle border north, and about 90 minutes to the western Oklahoma to the east. So we're kind of right in the middle of the Panhandle. So it's kind of a short trip over.
Nice. So there's some pretty nice antelope over there in New Mexico. Did you guys get into some big bucks, or what happened there?
There were a few. The one I took was an old buck that had just all kinds of funky character on his tops, and so that's what kind of led me to that one. And he was old and limping around, and he needed to go.
Yeah, you were doing your part for conservation, eh? Taking the mercy harvest. Oh, it's good for you. So I guess, Sam, for our listeners, maybe just talk a little bit about who you are, where you're at, and how it ties into the wild sheep conservation, if you don't mind, for us.
Okay, sure. I grew up in a small agriculture town about 30 miles outside of Amarillo. Got involved in hunting and fishing from my grandfather, actually. Probably about the age of 4 or 5. He took me fishing. We went out hunting and things like that. He introduced me to conservation, which at the age of 5, I had no idea what that meant. But as he so plainly put it, I would watch him. He would do things and have me do things, and some of it didn't make a whole lot of sense to a 5-year-old. And I'd be like, "Hey, what are we doing this for?" He said, "Well, you got to take care of the animals and where they live. If we don't, nobody will." And so that has kind of resonated with me my whole life. And so all of those early lessons have just kind of stuck with me. I will throw this disclaimer out there. My grandfather introduced me to the outdoors, but it was my grandmother that taught me how to shoot.
So are you a good shot or a bad shot then?
I'm a pretty good shot, I guess. I'll do okay. But we would be out on the back, and out off their back porch with a pellet gun shooting at cans, and I couldn't hit anything. My grandpa, he could some. Man, my grandmother, she'd come out there in her apron and every time, clink, clink, clink. So when my grandpa went inside, I went and got her. I said, "Hey, come show me how to do that." But she actually snuck back out there, and she was the one that actually taught me how to shoot.
That is super cool. So did she ever go out hunting, or it was always she just shot? She wasn't a hunter?
She would go sometimes on some bird hunts
Okay.
and things like that. She was usually busy around the house.
So growing up in that small town, what did you get out hunting? What kind of stuff? Because Texas is pretty good for game. There's a lot of it and a lot around. What kind of
It
stuff did you
started
get
out
chasing?
with bird hunting, dove and quail, pheasant. That was always big. Then big game stuff. We have mule deer, whitetail, and pronghorn antelope all here locally, and so all of that.
So your first your first big game animal, was that with your grandfather as well, or was that?
I was with my father, my
Okay.
grandfather. I'm trying to think. No, I think my grandfather had passed
Okay.
by the time we did that, but I did bird hunting and everything with my grandfather, and then
Awesome. So you kind of been a lifelong hunter, and then obviously it's really impactful. At 5 years old, it's funny, Sam, that you mentioned that. I kind of have similar memories of that with my grandfather. I don't really remember us talking actively about conservation, but I remember those early days. And I guess the thing is we'd go drive around and we'd see all kinds of game and big bucks. And my grandpa was never in a hurry to kill any of them, really. It was, and we always did get a deer at the end of the season, but it was kind of, I don't know, respect for the animals or something. I can't even really explain it, but it wasn't quite as poignant as yours, where your grandfather told you about looking after things, but it's pretty cool. Yeah.
no, he definitely planted the seed early on.
Yeah. So how did that kind of manifest itself? So I guess before we kind of jump into that, maybe touch base on where you're currently, in your conservation world, is your role as president of the Texas Bighorn Society and your involvement and how you got involved in all that stuff. And if you were involved in other stuff prior to that.
Yeah, I've been a member of DSC and Elk Foundation, or Mule Deer Foundation, and things like that. The way I got kind of involved with TBS is kind of a funny story. Was I actually went on an Aoudad hunt. We'll get more to that later, but it's kind of funny that my sheep hunting actually started with an Aoudad hunt up here in Paladera Canyon, and thought it was pretty cool. And then I was in the office one day, and a guy that was in the office to visit me was actually a member, worked for Parks and Wildlife. He was a biologist in this region, and so I got to talking to him and asking him about wild sheep and things like that. And he said, "Oh man, there's this organization called the Texas Bighorn Society. You really should get involved with them." I tried for 2 years to join the Texas Bighorn Society. On their website, man, it was horrible. It wouldn't let me pay. It wouldn't let me join. I mean, it just, for 2 years I tried that. And then finally I went to the sheep show in Reno. And first thing I did is like, okay, I looked and found their booth and went in and went over and joined TBS at the booth in Reno. So I had to go to Reno, Nevada to join Texas Bighorn Society.
So that was one of the things that you could help fix a little bit with the organization. Eh?
Yes, and when I became president, now
started.
we have a brand new website. It's very accessible. You can join, you can donate. All of that stuff is very functional.
Right on. So
One of the first things that I did was try to get that fixed.
That's awesome. So how long ago was that when you joined as a member, and then where did you go from there, Sam?
Oh, probably 10, 12 years ago was when I joined. I was involved. Then I was on the advisory board for 2 years, I think, and then on the board of directors for 2 or 3 years, and then been president for the past 5 years. Also
awesome.
served on the TBS scientific committee.
Okay. So how does that work? I know I'm familiar with Wild Sheep Foundations, and Wild Sheep Society BC is a little different as well. How does it work in Texas for you guys with the TBS?
As far as
the scientific advisory board.
Mainly what that is, people would submit grants asking for money for projects and things like that. And so there are 3 of us on that committee, 2 real biologists, and then myself. I got put on there because I went to a board meeting and answered a bunch of questions about some of the science behind one of the experiments they were trying to do. Little background, I have a bachelor's in microbiology from Texas Tech University, and then went to graduate school and got a master's and a PhD in molecular biology, and then went on to medical school. So they thought they should put all of that schooling to use in TBS, and so they put me on the scientific committee.
Somehow they figured you had something you could offer, I guess, eh?
That, and it wasn't a real big ask from anybody else. Nobody else wanted the job. There's something else to do in the organization, so I said, sure.
That's fantastic, Sam. Maybe take us a little bit through some of the stuff. I'm not really knowledgeable on the status of bighorns in Texas, but I think Texas, the numbers were quite low, and there's been quite a successful rebound in bighorns over the last couple of decades. Can you talk a little bit about the history of that?
Sure. Historically, the desert bighorn sheep are native to Texas, down in our Trans-Pecos area where the mountainous ranges are, in this kind of southwestern part of the state, over towards El Paso and along the border back to the east. That's our sheep range. There's several different there's many, 13 or 15 different mountain ranges down there that have sheep. Historically, there was about 15 to 1,800 sheep. Then kind of watching those decline. They started declining after that area started getting settled. The settlers brought in domestic livestock, brought in net fences for that livestock. Then they opened the railway from El Paso back east. And so there was a lot of commercial hunting. And they'd load those trains up with pronghorn, deer, bighorn sheep, and ship it east. Everybody knows kind of about the decimation of the American bison up in my area, up here in the Texas Panhandle and on through the Great Plains. But once those same hunters got done killing all the buffalo, they just kept moving south, and then they're the ones that really overhunted the bighorn sheep in Texas. And then they outlawed sheep hunting in Texas because the numbers were so low. And then the last desert bighorn sheep that they saw native to Texas was like in the late 1950s, early 60s. That was the last ram that they found, and after that they were gone.
So what did repatriation look like? How did that when did that start to happen, and how did that take place?
That started in earnest in the early 80s. There was two organizations. There was the Texas chapter of FNAWS back then, and then there was also Texas Society for Bighorn Sheep or something like that. So there were two organizations. The state legislature asked Dr. Red Duke, who was a famous trauma surgeon in Houston and an avid outdoorsman, big in Boone and Crockett, asked him to kind of head this up. So he became president. He was the first president of the Texas Bighorn Society. And then it was just kind of put on private citizens who, all went to work, for that direction. One of the first things they did was they built some pens in the Sierra Diablos. Those pens back then in the early 80s cost like $200,000, and they were paid for completely by private citizens and members of Texas Bighorn Society. Some people even went as far as they went out and took out personal loans to help pay for that. So we built those pens, got some sheep from different places. After the sheep were extirpated in Texas, and then went through all this and these organizations to try to get some sheep back in. Texas got sheep from Nevada, Utah, I think maybe from Arizona, and translocated those to Texas. That met with pretty quick failure. We had a predator problem, things like that. Kind of got that sorted out. We built some pens in the Sierra Diablo Mountains. These pens were 4 10-acre tracts, and put some breeding pairs in there and let those start to propagate. Those pens, like I said, were built completely on donations through private citizens and members of the Texas Bighorn Society. Some of our members took out personal loans to pay for those. And so had some success with those, turned some of those sheep out, and they did well. It was around that same time there was a man named CJ Johnson that donated a 20,000 tract of land to Parks and Wildlife to be used for bighorn sheep habitat. And that is now what is Elephant Mountain Ranch. And that's kind of our current brood facility for our bighorn sheep. Those pens worked great, and we were able to take sheep out of there and put some over on Elephant Mountain, release some in the Diablos. Towards the end of that, there were some problems with the pens. There was some disease in the pens. Predators were still able to get in, so they served their purpose well, but it was time to move on from the pens.
So a couple questions for you. What year did TBS get established roughly? That when Red Duke took over, Dr. Duke
that
took
was
over?
I think in 81.
Okay.
And then a few years later, the Texas chapter of FNAWS and the Texas Bighorn Society merged and became TBS.
Okay. Yeah, right on. And then you talked about some of the predation issues and stuff. And so they brought the pens in, they put the sheep in the pens and sort of, what was the intention of that? Like that was for breeding purposes, just to
yes, completely for
maternity pens. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those pens, like I said, there were 4 10-acre pens with alleys in between. And then on the outside, there were alleys around the circumference. By alleys, I mean, there was a fence and then an outer fence. So thinking that would keep predators out. Well, sometimes they would find lions in that alley between the outer fence and the inner fence. And actually some of them were able to get into the inner fence eventually. But they served their purpose well.
Did they do a bunch of predator management stuff to, in the vicinity to try and give them a fighting chance, or how did that work?
Yeah, after that they did. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Started working with that.
Okay, perfect. For some of our listeners, Sam, Texas is pretty unique to most jurisdictions with the amount of private land, right? It's almost, what's the number? It's like high 90s is private land, isn't it?
Yeah, like 93 to 97% privately owned land in Texas.
Yeah, so that's unlike, lots of, certainly in Western US and certainly Western Canada for sure, where there's all these public lands that people have access to. So it's a bit of a unique circumstance in Texas there. And I guess you talked about Elephant Mountain being that brood range for these sheep. Is there any hunting on Elephant Mountain or in the vicinity?
Actually, there is. There is an auction tag that the Parks and Wildlife give out every year in a rotation. That's the one that you'll see in the auction at Wild Sheep Foundation, the one we have in our auction, our yearly fundraiser. And those tags are actually for a ram on Elephant Mountain.
Okay. Yeah.
That's usually where that takes place.
So now what are our populations? I think you said historically there were 17 to 1800 in the early, like pre-extirpation. What are we kind of sitting at right now, numbers wise?
Then we got them back up to 1,500. So we got them up to pre-extirpation levels. And then here recently, the last 5 years, we've had disease issues just like everywhere else. And our sheep numbers have declined. In our last survey last year, there were some issues with that survey, but they were down to probably below 1,000. So
Okay. And what's the source of that disease? Is it again domestic issues, or is there other things happening there? What's the primary source of issues for them?
It's Mycoplasma ovinpneumonia, just like most places. And the source of that, believe it or not, down in that country, there's not a whole lot of domestic livestock, sheep and goats. There's a little bit along the border, especially on the Mexico side of the border, and some of those little weedos. But on the Texas side, there's not a whole lot of that. There is some, but it's not much. Most of the disease, that ovinpneumonia in Texas that's killing our desert bighorn sheep, is coming from Aoudad.
Is that right, eh?
Yeah.
It's interesting. I certainly wasn't knowledgeable about this issue at all. And of course, we had our summit down in San Antonio, which TBS and yourself were the generous hosts of that event. It was great. It was not this past summer, the summer before. And, we became much more knowledgeable on it. But let's maybe jump into that issue around Aoudad and kind of some of the struggles. And You'd think it'd be an easy solution, but I know that it's a very challenging solution. So let's dive into the issue for us, Sam, please.
Okay. Well, the Aoudad are non-native to Texas. They got here from a private ranch in California and in New Mexico. And believe it or not, the Texas Parks and Wildlife are the ones that brought the Aoudad in, back in the 40s maybe, to try to make it another game animal and possibly an extra protein source for folks. They brought in a handful of Aoudad up in my neighborhood up here in Paldera Canyon, and then put some down in the Trans-Pecos area. So we started out with like 16 Aoudad in the state, and now we're up to probably 60,000.
Wow.
So the numbers have just exploded. You know, they have a great reproductive advantage. They the ewes can breed at 9 months of age. They often breed twice a year, and most of the times they have twins. So you can see kind of that exponential growth just from that. There's been some recent population dynamic studies that were done, I guess it was a couple years ago, and just looking at those numbers and the projections, they said to keep Aoudad at the level they are now, without increasing them, but without decreasing them, just keeping them in a steady state, you would need to kill 83% of the ewes every year.
That's insane. So give me a quick number on, so if you got 60,000 and you'd say half are ewes,
yeah.
So 40,000, 80% of that's over 30,000 that you're going to have to kill every year. Hunting is not going to solve the problem, is it?
Thank you for saying that. No, this is not something you're going to hunt your way out
of. So what's the solution? You know, that's the one thing with domestic sheep. There's fences, there's farmers, there's that, but it's different without that. So what are some of the things you're working on, Sam?
Yeah, see, there's a big financial component to this also, because probably everybody listens to this has either hunted Aoudad in Texas or wanted to hunt Aoudad in Texas. And so that's a big industry. Aoudad are non-native, so there's no season, there's no quota, there's no tag requirement. All you have to have is a Texas hunting license. You can hunt them 365 days a year. You can kill as many as you want. So a lot of you spoke to how much of Texas was held by private land. A lot of those private landowners sell those Aoudad hunts. You know, they'll get $5,000 plus per Aoudad hunt. And they can do that. You know, that's usually a 3-day hunt. They may book it for 5, but it's usually 2-3 day hunt. And you can see the amount of money that can generate pretty fast. And so TBS is not at all opposed to that. You know, we're all about our landowners being successful. But you can see kind of the financial incentive to leave some of them alone. Originally, when we first kind of started talking about this, there were sort of 3 groups of landowners. One group, they'd have cameras up. Hey, there's an Aoudad on my place. They'd tell somebody come kill them on. The ones on the other end, hey, I'm selling these hunts, don't touch them. And then the group in the middle, and actually the group in the middle has kind of grown both directions. It's like, hey, yeah, I'm going to continue to sell these Aoudad hunts, but when I'm not hunting the trophies, I'm going to start hammering on these ewes. And so most landowners now take that approach. And that's actually helped some. Also, our Parks and Wildlife people, they've been really great about trying to get rid of them on our public lands. In fact, just recently, the Big Bend Ranch National Park, not the state park, but the actual national park, has set up a schedule where they're closing parts of that park and coming in and doing Aoudad removal.
Wow.
And then they'll open that and then close another part and kind of go around that way.
Any idea on sort of numbers that are killed every year that they are removed off the landscape? No idea.
Not enough.
Yeah.
It's kind of the number.
Does it continue to grow significantly, or has it kind of reached a level of stasis now?
No, it's still running like a grass fire. Because like I said, 80% of the ewes every year. Yeah. I mean, even if you say, hey, you know, we're going to pass a law, we're going to kill all the Aoudad in the state of Texas. That's like saying we're going to kill all the feral pigs in the state of Texas. It's just not going to happen.
Right. Right. So what are some of the solutions moving forward? What, obviously let's cure Moby. We'll start with that one, right? But aside from that, what are some of the things that you guys are able to do? Are you guys doing some double fencing or segregation or anything like that in certain
Yeah,
areas?
some of the landowners are doing some of that. Like I said, a lot of the landowners will pay, out of their own pockets for aerial gunning to get rid of to try to control those numbers. Like I said, the state does that also to try to help reduce those numbers. Recently we've done some Aoudad surveys and some captures and testing for MOV, and I think they tested that first round we tested 7 mountain ranges. There was Aoudad in every mountain range, and in those mountain ranges, 100% of the mountain ranges tested. Some Aoudad tested positive for MOV. I think the highest prevalence was 65% positivity of the ones tested in one of the mountain ranges.
So there's no getting away from it. So there's Aoudad everywhere and there's disease everywhere.
Correct.
So like a place like Elephant Mountain, is it Aoudad free? Did they not come down there? Or there's Aoudad
there are some out there, but they keep a really close eye on that mountain and try to keep them controlled. I don't know if this would be a good time to talk about it. Our numbers are down, Aoudad numbers are up, diseases is increasing, so we're kind of in dire straits. There is a mountain range near El Paso, Texas, called the Franklin Mountains. There's actually a Franklin Mountain State Park that historically, and I can't remember how many years ago, but in the distant past, actually had bighorn sheep there. There's no sheep over there now. They've done lots of flying and lots of ground surveys, and there's no Aoudad in that mountain range.
Yeah.
There's no sheep. There's no Aoudad. There's been some graduate students, I think from University of Texas, El Paso, and maybe from New Mexico, that are looking at some mountain lion studies, and they've had camera traps all throughout that park and haven't seen any mountain lions on their camera. The Parks and Wildlife guys have gone in and put up additional cameras in some other places, and so far there's no predators. I'm kind of telling you this because, hey, we have a mountain range that don't have any Aoudad, doesn't have any disease, and if there's predators, there's very little. So we're looking at translocating sheep from Elephant Mountain to the Franklin Mountain State Park.
That's awesome.
And the parks people did a big public outreach and did surveys, and with all the people that use the park, the hikers, the bikers, everybody, and surprisingly, it was overwhelmingly positive response. People are completely behind that.
Oh, that's encouraging.
And so we're planning on doing that translocation in January of 24.
Okay. So with the source herd, and they're coming off Elephant Mountain, are those tested pretty regularly? Is there disease prevalence in there at all, or have they been a clean stock?
No, there hasn't been.
Okay. Yeah.
Knock on wood. So far, there hasn't been. Of course, we'll test. All the ones we capture, we'll test and segregate before we translocate them to make sure there's no disease.
And I think this translocation is a pretty cool one because there's a bunch of funding partners. I think you guys applied to Wild Sheep Foundation for grant and aid. I think Midwest chapter kicked in, and then Pittman Robertson is they're doing a 3-to-1 match on it too, aren't they?
Yes, sir. We applied for the Wild Sheep grant and aid, and Wild Sheep Foundation generously funded that. We're going to build 2 of our guzzlers on the tops of the mountains in that park. There were 3 or 4 of our chapters that pitched in to help pay for the guzzlers, which aren't included in the grant, and then the grant pays for the translocation and collars and things like
that. What kind of money does a project like that cost? I think it's 80 bighorns or something like that, Sam, I seen somewhere.
The original goal was to translocate 80 from Elephant Mountain. The way that comes about is we look at the population on Elephant Mountain and kind of know that carrying capacity. So once it gets above a certain number, we know we need to take so many off to protect the habitat on Elephant Mountain. So taking animals off actually helps preserve our elephant mountain habitat as well, so it doesn't get overutilized. But 80 is what we're looking at. It may be a little less the first time, but and then supplement it as it goes. But that was the original ask, was 80.
So when they do a transplant like that, what are the breakdown of ewes versus rams and that sort of thing? Do you have those numbers?
I do not.
Okay, I was just curious, and
you can edit that out, right?
I don't either. So you're no further behind me or ahead of me. So, okay, so that something like that. So you're going to move to the Franklin Mountains. Where is the nearest? How far is the nearest Aoudad herd? Is it hundreds of miles, tens of miles?
If you go out of that, so the southern part of that park is basically the city limits of El Paso. Those mountains come right down into the city, and the park's at the top. And if you go north, you go and you get to the end of those mountains, and it sort of drops off into a flat that stretches for, I don't know, maybe 100 miles into New Mexico. And so the only mountains around there in Texas, that's the only mountains close to it in Texas. There's some Aoudad in New Mexico, in the Oregon mountains, and somewhere else, I believe. But yeah, we've got that big flat area to monitor the sort of the red zone. So if we see Aoudad in that, they'll be removed.
So you guys do the transplant, and then how often will that be surveyed and that sort of stuff? Is that going to be something that's pretty frequent? And
yes.
Does it have to be aerial, or is there something you can do? Can you do lamb counts or sheep counts or anything like that?
Yeah, they'll probably do both.
Right. Yeah. Very cool. Okay, well that's a huge project, and that's a huge success story and really exciting. So,
but give a little shout out to Wild Sheep Foundation. Kind of that mantra with the chapter and affiliates has been, one campfire. And I can't think of a better example of that philosophy than this project, because other states have jumped in and helped, fund our water projects. And man, we couldn't do it without those partners. And the Wild Sheep Foundation, like I said, generously is funding that grant in aid request. It's just, I don't know if anybody knows it, but there's a good chance Wild Sheep Foundation just saved the sheep in Texas because of the dire straits we're in with diseases. And if we get them over in there where there's no disease, and we can get that established and make that either a new or a second source herd or brood herd, then that'll be huge for us.
That is phenomenal. What kind of budget does that take? You're moving 80 bighorns, and I know, like we said, WSF's kicking in 280 or whatever that number is. What kind of numbers does it take to move that? Is that the entire budget, or is it must be bigger than that, I guess?
The entire budget, I think, was 350,000, something like that. A lot of that is helicopter time, callers, and then, the translocation, the helicopters are most of it, catching, and the vast majority is from that. So,
okay. So is the plan to go into Elephant Mountain, they'll capture them, net gun them, capture them, and then fly them back down, and then are they going to trailer them, or how do they get them?
Test them and make sure, wait for the test to come back and make sure everything's disease free. And then that's a pretty long haul to fly them in a helicopter, so they'll trailer them and take them over on a trailer and turn them out.
Wow. Are you going to be on the ground for that?
Yes, I am.
Wow, that's
phenomenal. Yes, I want to be.
Yeah, that's the plan.
I think so, because it's going to be a pretty big undertaking.
Yeah, and you said January 2024?
Yes, sir.
Okay, maybe I'll get lost in Texas then. I'd love to see something like that. It's going to be amazing. Yeah, awesome.
The cool thing about that park, you're like, well, you're going to trailer them, but you said they're going to be released in the mountains. How's that happen? There's a paved road all the way up to the top to the park, to the park headquarters. So we can go all the way up there and then release from up there. So it's not like we have to release them at the bottom and let them find their way up. We can get them a head start up the hill.
That's awesome. And the Franklin Mountain, that range, was that historic range? Were they,
yes,
are they extra? They are, yeah.
Been there historically, yes.
Okay. And how's the predator situation? Have you guys been knocking stuff down in there? Or it looks pretty solid.
Like I said, they haven't really seen a whole lot. They've done surveys, and there's predator protocol in place for when that happens.
Yeah, right on.
The really nice part, the parks people were on board with all of that.
Right. Yeah. Is Clay Burr involved with any of this stuff? I know he was on your board of directors and obviously involved in the Wild Sheep Foundation's board. Has he been involved with this at all?
Yeah, we keep Clay involved in everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's been a big part of this, helping sort through some of the logistics and what we need to do and how we need to do it.
So in a project like this, obviously you went to Wild Sheep Foundation for the grant and aid, other chapter and affiliates. There's the PR match. How does that collaboration work with government, with Texas Parks? Is it, you guys work really closely together, or you they come to you and say, just get us some money? How does it work, Sam? I'm just wondering how something like that.
Yeah, the Parks and Wildlife guys, they're our main partner.
Right.
And we like to think we're their main partner. The way the PR match works is the state has X amount that they can apply for PR matching, and they're going to use this to apply for the PR match. And then what those matching funds will come out and they'll go straight into the Parks and Wildlife to the sheep account, to the sheep budget for the sheep program. So they won't be used for anything other than sheep and sheep related activities.
That's awesome. So for our listeners, I know there's a bunch of Canadians that listen to this, and the way it works in the U.S., and Sam, you can back me up on it or correct me where I'm probably inevitably going wrong here, but Pittman-Robertson is an act that was established decades ago, and it's providing federal funding, and they match 3-to-1. So in this example, you provide $200,000 in funding, you can get up to $600,000 on a federal match. And it's federal money that's there for that purpose, and you just have to apply for it and once you get the approval, that money's theirs. Am I correct on that, Sam?
100%.
Okay, so a fantastic program, a model that I'm envious of being a Canadian. I wish we had something like that. We have nothing of the sort like that here in Canada. So it's a great program that to find, I guess politicians put it together. It was done politically. It was, but they got together and and what's any idea what that PR fund is? It's literally hundreds of millions of dollars a year.
It's a big fund. What kind of keeps that PR account or fund going? All money from federal duck stamps, hunting licenses. There's a tax on all firearms, ammunition. All of that money that we pay goes into. There's a part of that goes into that PR account. That's how they generate money for it.
Yeah, it's awesome. And the cool part of that is that we can truly, in that case, say hunters are paying for keeping sheep on the mountain, looking after wildlife. And, we hear that a lot in the States. We kind of say that in Canada, but really we're doing a pretty bad job in Canada in comparison. Not even all of our tag sales go to dedicated wildlife conservation. So it's pretty unfortunate. And that's certainly a model that I respect and looked up to in the U.S.
Yeah, in Texas, we kind of don't like paying taxes. We do, but we don't like doing it. There's no state income tax in Texas, but anytime there's any sort of talk about taxes towards all those things I just mentioned, or raising the rates, the prices for a hunting license or this or that, man, hunters don't even bat an eye because they know where that money goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're going to pay
the money they put in, they know that they're going to benefit from it because that's going to go back into conservation for our wildlife across the country, not just in Texas.
Yeah, that's the tax you want to pay. If you're going to pay any tax, that's the one you want to pay.
That's the one, yes, sir.
Yeah, right on. Well said, Sam. Okay, we've kind of talked a little bit about that. Anything else going on in Texas with TBS or wild sheep conservation that you want to touch on? Anywhere
else? I kind of touched on this a little bit. We talk about the sheep country. It is literally on the border with Mexico. And so, you can work really hard on one side of the border in conservation and disease management, but if it's not reciprocated across that river, then it's not doing much good. Recently, we've always worked with Mexico pretty closely, but recently we've started this Texas-Mexico Desert Bighorn Sheep Border Initiative, where we're raising some money to help the people on that side. Some of those little weirdos that have some small bands of domestic livestock, some of that money goes to help educate them and to help provide for healthier herds, for big time for exotic control over there. There's a lot of Aoudad on that side of the river, just as there is this side. Our first, this all started in the last year, the last 6 months. At our last fundraiser, we had a special hunt donated from Mexico, and we put that in a raffle and raised $50,000. That was our first thing that goes into this program. Just this month, we purchased some binoculars, rangefinders, and some trail cameras for our partners on that side, because those guys, they don't even have binoculars. So we've started to try to outfit them some. We've also set some of that money aside for aerial surveys, and Parks and Wildlife have set aside some money when they're doing our surveys, in the state of Texas. Once they get that done, they're going to fly some in Mexico and do sheep surveys, but also some Aoudad surveys. And then a lot of it goes into education for some of those Owedos and those villages, and some of the Mexicans that live in that area, kind of educate them about Aoudad and about bighorn sheep, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, right on.
Another thing that's trying to be done also is with some of this, the Aoudad control on that side of the border. Any of those Aoudad that are taken, if they're accessible, we'll get it and then give that meat to those villages and those Owedos.
Oh, yeah,
so it's kind of a big project that's just kind of getting some traction with getting them some equipment and things like that.
Perfect. Now, with the Wild Sheep Foundation, I know Clay was instrumental in setting up the Mexico Council.
Yes.
And Emilio Rangel's on there, and the RTs are on there, and a bunch of other great conservation-minded Mexican. A lot of them are outfitters. Is that part of that program? Are they involved in that?
This is a totally separate deal. This is just strictly along the border.
Right. Yeah.
Just right across the river.
Right.
In the state of Coahuila and Chihuahua, just in those two states, right along the border.
So who's facilitating that dialogue? Is that something that someone on your board's doing, Sam? Are you doing that, or how does that work?
There's been some talk, some communication back and forth, since we decided that what they came and what they asked us to do is if we could help them raise money. So
okay,
sure. So we'll put stuff in our auction and everything. So that's kind of how we got involved. We raise money. We've got an account that has that name on it, and that's all it's used for. Froilan Hernandez, our sheep program director, he's been very instrumental in this. Alejandro with CMEX, Billy Pat McKinney with CMEX USA. They've kind of started this. They were kind of the ones that started this. And Alejandro is the contact person. He's kind of like, I guess what you'd say, the head of it now.
Okay. So if somebody wanted to support something like this, is there stuff you can buy people tickets by tickets on the raffles, or can people donate? How do they get involved in something like that?
All the above. We'll have another hunt this year at our fundraiser, but you can now get on our website and donate money, which you couldn't do a couple years ago.
And buy a membership.
Yes, and buy a membership. Please do that. There's actually a place on there. You go under programs and it drops down and it'll say Texas Mexico Border Initiative. You click on that and it gives you a chance to donate there.
Right on. Sounds great. Anything else we need to touch on wild sheep wise in Texas before we jump ahead? Anything else you're working on? Well, I'd say those are two pretty cool initiatives, and certainly kudos to you for doing a transplant. Like we look at this, and that's kind of the gold standard. Anyone that can do that, and we're really struggling with disease issues here in BC. And when I look at what you guys are doing, and you got a source herd and you've got a destination, and they're both clean, that's pretty darn exciting. That's the Hail Mary right there. So that's I'm excited for you.
This is a Hail Mary, yes.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, it's really exciting. You said January of 24.
Yes.
Okay. Hopefully not during sheep week.
It's at the end of the month.
Okay.
I think it's the last week of January. Yeah, not the first.
Yeah, right on. So how about you personally? So you've been at the helm there for 5 years. Do you have some succession planning? Do you got some young guns that are coming up behind that are ready to take over the reins, or are you firmly in the driver's seat for the foreseeable future?
we're trying to get some of our young. When I became president, we had a board meeting and we just finished one of our roundups. That's what we call our fundraiser, and everybody kind of made the comment of like, "Did you see all the gray hair in the room?" And we don't have any young people involved, and so we've been better about getting young people involved. We've got some real go-getters, some young guys, Jim Breck Bean, and Walker Netherton from Midland. Those guys are on our board. They've been active and really helping out. So we're trying to continue that trend. In fact, one of our board members, he was a board member, he's a past president, served on our board, for years, named Robert Joseph out of Lubbock. And recently he said, I'm stepping down off the board because I want to open it up a slot for a young guy. So there's that kind of commitment from our organization to doing that.
Are you finding there's a lot of young people that are interested in getting involved, or is it tough to attract new blood? How do you find it?
Actually, it's pretty easy. Some of those kind of the age group you're looking for, I'm sure you've had the same problem. Some of those guys and girls are just starting careers, just starting families. They've got jobs they're trying to get established, and so they don't have a whole lot of spare time. But the time they do have, they give unselfishly of it.
That's awesome. So how about you? You've been at the helm there now for half a decade. Where do you go from here? Are you going to stay in that role, or you got other aspirations?
I recently got nominated to run for the board of directors for Wild Sheep Foundation. So my name will be on that ballot when it comes out.
That's exciting. Let's talk a little bit about that. So I think was Dan Boone, was he at Texas? He was from Texas. He's a former chairman of the board. So yeah, no stranger to Texans running the show at Nashville there. So it certainly would be in good hands having you on the board of directors there, Sam. So talk a little bit about that. What are some of the things that you're thinking about in terms of national and being involved? I want to say, and I want to commend you and your team, that we're in San Antonio for the chapter and affiliates in 2022, and you guys put on a darn good show. You guys were incredible hosts, phenomenal. San Antonio is a beautiful city, of course, and just really appreciate you hosting us there and all the great work that you guys are doing for conservation in the great state of Texas.
Well, thank you. We had a good time. People were kind of questioning us, like, well, why'd you have it so early? The chapter and affiliates, it's usually later. And it's like, well, have you been in San Antonio in August? That's why we had it in June. It was still pretty hot. We had a good time. I think it was pretty successful. A big shout out to Megan and Maddie and all those staffers at Wild Sheep Foundation. Megan especially made that completely easy for on our end.
Oh, it was pretty cool. It was a lot of great stuff, and we didn't get out in the field to see any sheep, but we got to tour the Alamo, and just San Antonio is just a gorgeous city. It's unbelievable how pretty that city is. I really enjoyed being down there and hearing about the issues that you guys are having. And but no, that's really encouraging. And so the Wild Sheep Foundation, I think the elections are opening up. October 15th is when the dates are open up there, and we got a really strong slate of candidates. So I was really excited to see on the ballot, Sam, and looking forward to hearing and seeing the great work that you can continue to do for Wild Sheep.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So before we sign off, before we let you go, what's the plan for the rest? You have any hunts planned for the rest of the fall here, or are things slowing down for you? You going to go out and chase some Aoudad around? What's the plan?
No, for the rest of the fall, I'm just kind of working. It's kind of a busy time of the year.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, you hear me talk about Aoudad and the evils of Aoudad and, the disease and all that stuff we just went through. But kind of back to the first part of this podcast, I went on an Aoudad hunt down in Valladera Canyon, and that's kind of what got me interested in, thought, man, if that's that cool, what would a sheep hunt be like? And so that's kind of how that took off. So I can't say they're completely worthless because they did get me involved in sheep. or more involved in sheep, I guess I should say.
That's awesome. Now, where are you at on your sheep hunting resume? What talk us through that? What have you been hunting and what have you harvested?
Finished my FNAWS
Nice.
in 2018, I think it was.
Okay.
Since then, I've gone back to Mexico, and I have my 4 sheep and then one more desert
Nice. So where did you hunt your stone sheep at? Where was that hunt done?
in the Yukon.
It was a Yukon hunt. Okay.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
your doll, where'd you
Doll was in
hunt?
Alaska.
Okay. Who was that with up there?
The doll
Yeah.
was with Mike Colpo and Lazy J Barrow Outfitters out of Wyoming.
Nice. Nice.
I mean, excuse me, out of Montana, Big Timber, Montana, not Wyoming.
Okay. And your bighorn, where was your Rocky? Where was that?
In Alberta.
In Alberta with Carter Outfitting?
It was with Dustin Rowe with Backcountry BC and Beyond.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh,
So that was that a pretty extreme backpack hunt? Because that's kind of the stuff that Dustin ends up doing in that country. Or did you guys
Yeah,
were on horseback,
well,
or what did
I
you?
thought it was. He probably didn't think it was much, but yeah, I thought it was pretty extreme. No, it was. It was a good hunt. Got a nice ram on like day 9 of a 10-day hunt. So
Nice.
we walked and worked and climbed, and
You earned it.
I swear if Dustin Rowe takes his boots off, there's hooves inside those boots.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Those mountains.
Yeah. And how about your desert? Where'd you get your first the desert to complete
In
your
southern
FNAWS?
Baja
Okay. Nice. Yeah.
with Dustin again down there.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So when you think back now, which hunt of the 4 stands out? Which one's the most memorable? Or means the most? You can pick either one. Was it getting your FNAWS? Was it a specific hunt? What kind of comes to mind when you think of it?
I mean, they were all special in their own way. You know, getting that 4th one was pretty exciting, especially getting it on day 9 of a 10-day hunt
Mm-hmm.
with full backpack kind of deal. That was pretty special.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So you talked about you've got your a 5th. You got the desert. Any other aspirations? You heading up in the North Country for something again, or what's the plan?
Yeah, I would like to. I don't know. Kind of thinking about it. Haven't made any definitive plans yet.
Right. Yeah. Well, and it's kind of hard to get your hands on a sheep hunt these days too. I know some guys are booked out till 29. I think it's pretty crazy, but there's still some around. But it's not like there's a lot hanging around. So yeah. Awesome. Well, Sam, I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to us tonight and to bring us up to some really important issues about what's going on in Texas. And I have to admit, I feel bad, but I'm not a life member with you guys, so that's on my priority list. And to be honest with you, a few times I've gone to, I'm always trying to pick up a life membership at these auctions when we go to CNAs or maybe at Sheep Show or something like that. And TBS is always so bloody expensive. Everyone wants a membership. So I guess I'm going to have to just stop being such a cheap guy and just go on the website and buy one. And apparently you can buy them on the website these days.
On the website now, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. But anyone that wants to support, how do they get involved, Sam? What can they do?
Just get on our website. It's texasbighornsociety.org. There's contact phone numbers, my email, the office email, all that stuff is on that website now.
Awesome. Yeah, right on. And the fundraiser, if somebody wants to attend and support
the
and come out.
this year is going to be in Odessa,
Okay.
Texas. We've never had it in Odessa. Where our sheep, like I told you, the kind of the area where our sheep are, our members are from everywhere else in the state. Like I'm as far away from sheep country in Texas as you can get and still be in Texas up here in Amarillo. So we try to rotate our banquet around the state, to different places to try to make it easier for people instead of having it in one spot all the time. This year it's going to be in Odessa. This year it's only a Saturday night. In the past, it's been a Friday and a Saturday, but this year it's just going to be on a Saturday night.
Awesome. Well, let's what's the date? Sorry. Roughly.
Middle of June, the first or second weekend of June.
Okay, awesome. Fantastic. All right. Well, Sam, I want to thank you for taking the time tonight to talk to us, and wish you guys all the best. And what we're going to do is I want to get you back on the podcast right after your capture, because that's
Okay, love
there's
to.
going to be that energy, and you're going to be, just amped up about it. And I want to hear all about it. And
Okay.
really, really excited for that. So
We're actually we've got one of our partners that has made some videos and stuff for us in the past. Claiborne Myers is going to come, and he's going to video all of it. We're going to put together a little documentary on it.
nice. Well,
some of the questions you've asked me about history of TBS and all that stuff will be included in there. I think he's planning on interviewing a lot of people, some of the original members of TBS.
nice. Well, when you get that put together, let's share it over with us, and we'll share it out with our
Absolutely,
listenership
yeah.
too. That'd be awesome. So awesome. Well, hey, Sam, thank you so much, and look forward to seeing you. I guess we'll see you in Sheep Week in a few months. It's not too far away now. It's getting close every day, and just wish you, wish you all the best, and thank you for all you do for wild sheep and wild sheep conservation.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on the podcast. I enjoyed it.